So I live in Texas now, and used to live in California. And so I want to talk about the 5 differences that I've noticed living in Texas being from California. So I moved out to Texas in 2011, and I used to live in San Diego, California. I was born and raised there. And so let's talk about the 5 things that I noticed that really stuck out to me during that time. So number one thing that I noticed about Texas in comparison to living in California is that there's a lot of Texas pride out here. And I know that sounds like a bad thing, but a lot of people really that are from Texas really appreciate Texas. They appreciate Texas. They're proud of Texas. They almost, it's almost as if Texas has an expectation, of how to be. And having been here for more than a decade, I can understand that now. I officially consider myself a Texan, not a native Texan, but yes, I am officially a Texan. And so I also take a lot of pride in living out here. Texas has been very good to me. So it's just one of those things where you will find that wherever you go, people wear, Texas shirts, and they have Texas, bumper stickers and Texas flags. When I lived in California, there wasn't so much, California pride. And in fact, having lived there most of my life, I don't really know what, I can't really think of anything on top of my head that I would be really proud of, California-wise. But Texas, there's a lot going here. So if you're looking for a place where people really enjoy the state that they're in and they're not always down on it, I think Texas is definitely a place that you would get that feeling here. Number 2, this one, this is debatable. This is just my personal opinion. The Mexican food. So obviously, being from San Diego, I'm on the border of Mexico and California. So I'm very familiar with Mexican food, and that was one of my favorite foods. And so this is kind of weird. Obviously, I'm a native Californian, so I have an acquired taste for a certain type of Mexican food, and so obviously that's going to be really high on my list. And I gotta say that the Mexican food out here doesn't compare to the Mexican food in California, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. So when I first came out here, I was introduced to Tex-Mex. That's a mixture of Texas and Mexican food together, and that's good. It's definitely good, and there's also some other authentic Mexican restaurants out here. But the thing to take from that is that there's just, even the authentic Mexican food, it's just a little bit different than what I'm used to back home. And one of the things that I miss out here in Texas that was everywhere in California, at least everywhere, every several miles, is you can find taco shops everywhere in California. You can find places that sell everything everywhere. There's Roberto's was a really good one. There's a whole bunch of them. Santana's is a really big one. And so it's hard to get that out here. If you're coming from California and you really love Mexican food and you come out to Texas, unfortunately, you're not going to get a taco shop at the end of every corner, and you're not going to have that wide range and that food that you desire. There are a few places out here that try to do that, and they do a fairly okay job, but nothing compares to the Mexican food in California. But with that said, obviously, if you're a native Texan, you may find it the other way. I heard stories that a long time ago there was a Mexican food that was from San Diego that tried to open up here in Texas, and the people just didn't like it, and it just didn't do very well. I don't know how true that is. That's just what I heard. So it could just be an acquired taste. And so for me personally, it just wasn't something that I was really excited about. Now, do I have my Mexican restaurants that I really like out here? Absolutely. There's a lot of Mexican restaurants that I really, really love out here. They're really good. But nonetheless, I find myself, whenever I go back visiting San Diego, I definitely find myself going straight to the taco shops and ordering a carne asada burrito. They're really big on tacos out here, and it almost seems like they're not really big on burritos out here. So that's just another thing that I've noticed is that if you're a burrito person, you know, their burritos out here is like, you know, Chipotle and Freebirds and whatever other kind of place like that. It doesn't compare. So I would say, for me personally, I think the Mexican food in San Diego is just by far better. And that's just, or, you know, or at least in California, Southern California is better. Maybe Northern California tastes terrible, probably. I don't know, never been there. Number 3 that I find really cool about Texas is that they have they have a variety of grocery stores, but there's one in general called H-E-B. And when I first got here, I called it Heb. And I think that's what everybody does. When you get out here and the first time you're like, where's the grocery store? Oh, there's Heb, right? So you go in Heb. Don't say Heb, it's H-E-B. I don't, you know. And so I see those everywhere. While when I was in California, they had a whole variety. It had Vons and Ralph's and Food for Less and whatever else, Safeway, all sorts of ones that I don't really remember. But what's interesting about H-E-B is that it's like everywhere. But I've found that H-E-B, something about H-E-B and that first point about Texas pride, I feel like H-E-B actually cares about its people. How can I explain that? I don't really know how, right? Like if you were to say, how to prove it, right? The only way I can really kind of prove it is when COVID hit, H-E-B worked twice as hard to figure out how to make sure that everybody could still get their food, everybody could still get everything, and you know, and ensured us that, you know, they are in control, they're on top of it, and that, you know, we don't have to worry so much. So I really like H-E-B. There's something about it. It's huge. I feel like they care. I'm not sure how. Maybe somebody can explain how H-E-B cares. I just feel like they care. I don't know how. Like, how can a store care? I don't know. Something weird. I don't know. I think they care. So the fourth thing about Texas that I noticed that's different between Texas and California is Texas is real big on tolls. Real big on tolls. Now I know that you can find tolls in California, easy. That's fine. But for some reason, like, Texas really likes tolls, and there's a lot of tolls everywhere. So if you're visiting Texas, be ready to pay some tolls. If you're moving to Texas, be ready to understand that paying tolls is just a part of the journey. It's a part of it. You just got to accept it. It's not so bad. It's, you know, well, I don't know. That's relative, but I don't think it's too bad depending on how much you commute, but it could add up. And so there are always routes around the tolls. And those are obviously backed up a lot, but that's not something I generally care for, but I understand that, you know, the tolls go towards a cause and there's a reason for it. And some tolls are, you know, you pay the price and it's completely empty all the time. So, you know, that's just a part of it. You got to be ready. You got to expect tolls. So here's the last one. And this is also a subjective point, you know, because you can hit the wrong parts of Texas and hit the opposite of what I'm about to say. But I found, being from California my whole life, having moved out here, I found Texans to generally be nicer, just nicer people. All right, what does that mean? So when I was in California, I wasn't used to greeting people with hellos. I wasn't used to, how are you? How was your day? I wasn't used to that. You know, I don't know if that's a California thing. I didn't really care about other people's opinions. I didn't really care about people. I just was doing my thing. And you know, I'm not trying to say that's good or bad. I'm just giving my observation. So when I came out here, you know, and I go to the grocery store and somebody says, how are you? How's your day? You know, at first I go, okay, well, you know, that's fine. I'm not here to chit chat, right? But once, over and over and over again, when you start running into people, how are you? How's your day? How you doing? You know, have a good day. Thanks for coming. You know, it's almost like everybody is like from Chick-fil-A. You know, everybody is really nice. And I noticed that. And I was like, after a while, I was like, hey, you know, there's something about this place. People are really nice. And now, having been here over a decade, that has rubbed off on me. I could say that that part of Texas has changed me to where being polite is something that I hope to do more, and I'm hoping to do more often. So I really do appreciate that. That part of Texas changed me. Although here's the opposite to that, right? Like I said, you can go to a bad neighborhood where everybody is rude. You know, I found that, you know, here in Texas, that there are a lot of rude people, but that's because maybe I'm in Austin, you know, and maybe Austin has a lot of people who aren't native Texans, or maybe, you know, one thing I've observed that a lot of young people who are just joining the workforce, I found them to be lacking any, you know, any kind of like social skills to greet people, be kind. So, I mean, when you come out here and you expect to be greeted by everybody, it's not necessarily the case. It was just an observation that I made in certain places. But, you know, but you obviously rude people are everywhere. And so that's just my observation. So these were my top 5 things that I noticed, difference between California and Texas. I'll come up with another list later, but this is just part 1. My name is Lawrence. I am a realtor here in Austin, Texas. If anybody has any real estate questions or real estate needs, I'd love to work with you. And even if you just want to talk about your differences, some of your observations, go ahead and leave a comment below. If you want to just chat about anything, let me know. I try to reply all the comments. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.